attention goes, energy flows. Where energy flows, manifestation follows. Attention is the realm of thoughts. It's the realm of belief. It's the seeds that we put out. Energy is really akin to the stages of development. Stages of development happen to us. All of us go through stages from being a child to being a middle-aged person to being an older person, and we don't really notice it happening. No one notices how old they're getting day by day. They'll notice it, but maybe every 5 years or every 3 or 4 years, but not day by day. It's kind of a subtle thing that just happens. And even though all of us here are younger than we were 10 years ago, we look in the mirror and we say, oh, that seems like a lie. But it's true. You have new cells every day. You're brand new. You're actually younger now than you were 30 years ago. It's hard to believe, but that's true. But those are stages of development. That's energy. Personality is kind of like manifestation. It's permanent, more or less. Some people change from being an introvert to an extrovert, being this type to that type, but most of us, our personality is fairly stable. 10% of the people actually do change, but 90% it's pretty much a permanent, stable thing. Now, all life, as Ernest Holmes says, moves in circles. So you can think of it as cosmic circles. You could just say nature moves in circles. Around and around we go. Just like the earth moves around and around the sun. And the earth was put there, the earth and the sun was put there and the moon was put there according to the fourth verse of Genesis. Really for us is signs and seasons and for measuring days and nights. That's really why the sun and moon were identified, and they were identified for that purpose. Now, as it turns out that the circular motion is, the Trinity goes through circles, but a very tight circle of attention, energy, manifestation. If we expand the Trinity, it's the same Trinity, it's just we break it into little smaller parts. And what are these parts? Well, every year the Earth moves through signs. We call it the zodiac, or if we take the name zodiac out, it moves through seasons. It moves through spring, it moves through summer, it moves through autumn, it moves through winter. Every year it does that. And every year it's moving through an attention phase, an energy phase, and a manifestation year. Every single year it does that. Every year we can think of the Earth is moving through 9 signs, or 9 stages, or 9 seasons. And if we look at a lifespan, every 9 years we go through a different phase. So if someone lives an average of 81 years, I'll pick 81 because it's a nice number, there's 9-year cycles that we move through. And the first 9 years is one kind of life, the second 9 years is another kind of life, and on and on and on. Now what I mean by everything moves in circles, I'm going to make the connections. Seems like a big step, and it is a big step, but I want to tie it into the same thing. When we do visioning, when we concentrate on anything, when we have a thought that we're trying to make into a thing, we can actually define it as 9 steps that we go through. The first step is you have to put your attention on something, or it's kind of like reading a book, or learning something new. The first stage of learning something new is you have an idea, and first maybe you read about it, you hear about it, or you see something, and that's the beginning. But if you really want to deepen your knowledge, what do you have to do? You got to go back and make sure you really got it. You have to study it a little bit deeper, maybe discuss it with a few people. Now, how does that relate to a life cycle? Well, the first 9 years of life, what do? We learn to read. We learn to think a little bit. But where do we learn this from? From the people around us. We learn how to communicate. That's pretty much what the first 9 years of life is about. Kind of like having an initial idea. We learn from individuals around us how to process information, how to think, how to talk, how to explain things, and basic do's and don'ts. Then in the second 9 years of life, which is the second stage of visioning or any form of concentration, what do? We learn to put our attention on something long enough to really understand what's kind of going on. So we think about so between in the second 9 years of life, what do? We basically learn to discuss things with people around us. We learn to keep our attention on something longer. In the first 9 years of life, we're just kind of collecting information and learning the basics. The second, we're getting a little bit more serious. We go to high school, we go to junior high. We're actually beginning to listen to things and learn things a little bit, quite a bit more deeper than we did in the first 9 years of life. Then eventually we moved into late teenage years, the next 9 years of life, from 18 to 27. Then we're getting into a situation where we got more confidence. We're not like a 9 to 18-year-old. We got more confidence, we have more ego, we have more self-esteem, and we understand things more deeply. So much so that we're able to tell other people what to do. We sometimes get to be a little know-it-alls in that young adult stage. And we have a lot more clarity. So all of those three things form the attention stage. The attention stage of the life cycle is the first third of the life cycle. The middle third of the life cycle is basically the energy stage. And most of us are either there or we're in the latter stage. But that energy stage, which is the middle stage of life, it begins with, that's age 27 to 36, and what happens in that when we're just moving into that, what we begin to do is to learn that there's things in life that we just don't know. We have to sleep on it. This is a period in life, it's just natural, part of the life cycle, part of the Trinity, where we have to accept unknowns, we have to accept that there's stuff that's bigger than what we are, and we become aware of how to deal with unknowns, or aware that there are unknowns, and we kind of lose some of the cockiness, some of the arrogance that we had when we were under 27, because we learn that there's just stuff going on. We're beginning to move into adulthood is what we're doing. Then, a little bit older, now we're getting very serious. Between 36 and 45, what happens? That's called midlife crisis. Everybody goes through a midlife crisis. And if you don't know it, you just have to look back and see what was happening around age 40, give or take. There's a midlife crisis. It's pretty universal. And what happens there is that people begin to notice new stuff is happening. Hey, I see some wrinkles I didn't have before. Oh, I have to unlearn some things that these people taught me a long time ago. What happens is you're just seeing things and learning things in a new way. You're beginning to, you don't really want to accept that you're getting old, but you have no choice. You're not a teenager anymore. You're not a kid. You're kind of still a young adult, but you're past 40. You're not really totally as young as you think you are. But that's midlife crisis. It's kind of the thing of a lot of insights, a lot of awareness. That's exactly the same thing that happens in visioning and concentration. After you move through this stage of, I need an answer, I don't know what the unknown is going to give me, you just wait for it to come, and it comes. In the middle stage is when light bulbs go off. Oh, that's the answer. Oh, I see what this is. Same thing that happens at midlife. Just beyond midlife, from 45 to 54, that next section, that's when we start saying, wow, maybe I can do some things I used to do when I was younger. Maybe I can start exercising. Maybe I can, whatever. But that's the stage when we're trying to maybe the last gasp hold on to something younger, but life is moving along. And here's where we come in and we get a little bit skeptical about the new stuff that we just learned at midlife. Does it really mean what I think it means? Do I really have to think about building my security for the rest of my life? Do I really have to think about my mortality? Is that stuff that happened to me when I was 40, 45? Is that real? And there's a little bit of a struggle and doubt because there's a little bit of time we don't really totally want to accept that. Well, that's the same thing that happens when we get a new vision. Well, what does this mean? Maybe it's not what I think it is. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Same thing. And then finally, after age 54, we move into the last third of life. And the first part of that is when we accept all those doubts and we say, okay, now I'm getting into the age of wisdom because I accept the doubts. I accept all those things that I thought weren't going to be true. They are true. I am getting a little older. But there's wisdom. There's something bigger than me. I accept it. I'm actually excited about it. And I can share that knowledge with others and expand my new ideas, even expand my creativity. I can begin to let it all hang out. I am who I am, so to speak, kind of as Popeye used to say. I am who I am, and that's all that I am. And we're confident and we accept the beginning part of the last stage of life. Same thing that happens in the visioning process or any form of concentration. At some point, once we understand what the vision is and we're critical, we're skeptical, we interpret it, then what we do is we begin to share it with the world with confidence. And then we move to that stage of 63 to 80, 63 to 72. That governs a lot of us here. Some of us we're a little beyond that. But anyway, that's where we're getting toward if we're looking at the 9 cycles, that's the 8th stage. So there's only 9 stages, but that's the middle stage of manifestation. And here is where people are determined to deal with concrete reality, determined to make things real. This is a stage in life, we don't have to do it, but usually you get that age. And according to the natural life cycle, the natural flow, this is a stage when you want to make palpable changes. You want to really do something that's going to have a lasting, almost physical effect. So there's a lot of energy put into bringing things down to earth, making them solid, creating a new order, and being even more determined than ever before in any of the other cycles, because we're close to the end. And then finally we get to the 72 to 81 year cycle. 81 year ages of the cycle. This brings things close to an end. But here is where we have an interest in introducing the stuff that we were doing the previous 9 years, trying to make it solid. And what we do is we begin to celebrate the new life. We begin to celebrate. I did these new things. I made these new introductions. I created this new order. I participated in this new order. Now I have to make everybody accept it. So how can I smooth it over? How can I be peaceful? How can I introduce a new change? Same thing that happens in the visioning process or concentration process. Once you have an idea and you're beginning to anchor that idea in reality, it's only finished when people accept it. If no one accepts it, it's like you did all this work, but nobody likes it. They just want you to get out of here. And so you have to find a way to actively integrate it into the world, and that's where you become kind of a peacemaker and someone who's smooth and can talk about it, and there's this and there's that, and you have ways of bringing things together. So what I was trying to do there is talk about the similarity between 81 years of living on the planet and what you can do in your mind and quickly by doing a vision. So doing a visioning process is very fast 9 steps. Although if we're going to really manifest something from an idea to reality, it's not quite so fast. It's like, whoa, you had the idea, but you better keep your mind on that before you can convert that into reality. Well, the same thing happens with us. We have an opportunity every 9 years to go through one of those stages. And if we're aware of it, it's all impersonal. It's not personal. Everybody goes through it at the same time. We get an opportunity to adjust our life to actually what the cosmic law is. So that's a big example of how the personal and impersonal fit together. We don't have to follow that. We can do what we want. But if you're following the seasons, you're going to have more success than if you're not. If you want to plant stuff, you don't want to plant late in the summer, because if you do, it's going to come up, but it's going to die off because winter's right around the corner. There's a time to plant and a time not to plant. Same kind of concept. And we can't really skip the steps. They kind of go in a sequence and go in an order. So hopefully this gives you a sense of some of the ways the cosmic impersonal life and the personal life fit together. This is a big example, but what I want to get across is how the universe moves in the same cycles, from something huge like our lifespan to something small like what's in our mind. Same process, because everything in our mind is inner observation. But all we do in life is observe the inner world, and the outer world follows. Whatever we keep our attention on, that's how it all comes into play. So